Hello, seventh grade. Welcome to Soul Studies. This is Monday's assignment. As of right now, everybody should have shared their English/Soul Studies assignment, which was the Thomas Jefferson DBQ question. Please have that posted. If you haven't posted it yet, please do so now and pause the video before moving forward. What I like to do is you have a few different options here. Number one, you can take out a new note sheet if you have one. One. Two, you can see the link here and print out a new note sheet if you prefer that. Okay. Three, you can use a lined piece of paper, draw a line, questions on the left, answer on the right. Or four, type this. You can type them in bullets. But what I like you to do is put the question first and then the bullets. Question first, bullets. Not all questions stacked at the bottom, guys. There's no reason to have that then. Or all questions stacked at the top. Question, bullets. Okay, I do like you to write down the essential question, even if it's typed, and the topic. So we studied the Thomas Jefferson presidency. We're now going to go moving to the James Madison presidency, president number 4. The topic is Madison and the War of 1812. Okay, now also known as the Forgotten War, and some people call it the Second War for Independence. Right, we usually think of the Revolution when we think about a war for independence, but some people call this the Second War for Independence. The topic which I'd like you to jot down is Madison and the War of 1812. Okay, Madison and the War of 1812. The essential question is as follows. Please jot this down. How can a clear understanding of James Madison's presidency allow us to realize the early struggles for independence? You know, not just for independence, but to keep that independence. So take a moment, jot down the essential question, jot down the topic, which is Madison, the War of 1812, and I want you to think of that essential question as we move forward. How can a clear understanding of this presidency, president number 4, his whole, tenure in office, allow us to realize the early struggles for independence? So take a moment and jot that down. On the left-hand side, question number 1. Who is James Madison? Okay. Another individual from Virginia. We've seen a lot of great individuals from Virginia, most notably George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Our friend here is a Republican president as well. We know him through his great efforts with the Constitution. You may recall that he is known as the father of the Constitution, because of the role that he played in the establishment of the Constitution and in the Constitutional Convention. You also know that because of his great note-taking ability and accountability and the amount of attention to detail this individual placed, he was the former Secretary of State under Thomas Jefferson, so under the 3rd president. He served as the Secretary of State. So this individual, nobody can really say, isn't qualified for what's ahead, which is the presidency, to go ahead and become president number 4 under, after Thomas Jefferson. He's going to be elected in 1808 and would take office in March of 1809. So the father of the Constitution, former Secretary of State, is now our nation's 4th president. So he is the nation's 4th president, and shortly after, a few years later, there is a issue brewing. That is the War of 1812. Over the years, and even when I was in school, the War of 1812 can be one that's easily overlooked. And it's important for us not to do that, okay? It's important for us to look very closely at this war that really surrounds the Madison presidency. So on the left-hand side, please write the question, why does Congress want Madison to declare war? The question on the left should be, why does Congress want Madison to declare war? Please jot that down. So the year is 1812, a few years into his presidency, and Madison, right? Madison is going to call on Congress to declare war on Britain. Declare war on Britain. The question on the left-hand side, you may need to fix it. I'm sorry. You want to jot down the question on the left. Why does Madison want Congress to declare war? Why does Madison want Congress to declare war? That should be the question. So Madison calls Congress to declare war on Britain in 1812. Okay, let's see what's going on. Britain needs troops to fight Napoleon and the French. And here's what's happened. There's imprisonments on American sailors and the British backing of Indian uprisings on the frontier. So you have great tensions brewing in this sense. Congress declares war on Britain in June of 1812. This is a historical moment because it's the first time where Congress is actually going to declare war. It's the first, but not the last time where Congress is going to declare war. What I'd like you to do is take a moment, maybe highlight or star that, because that's essential. Britain actually goes ahead and revokes, pulls the Imprisonment Act 2 days before war was declared. So the word has just not reached the United States yet. So take a moment, jot that down, and I do want to bring up some details for you right here on a term that you're going to need to know. So let me share that with you as you jot that down. Okay, imprisonment. Imprisonment, I want to give you the definition from the book here. Imprisonment. It's the practice of forcing people into military service. It's basically forcing individuals into military service. And Britain removes that act 2 days before the war was declared, but word has not yet reached the United States. Remember, communication back then is not what it is today. So what occurs in the battles at sea on the left-hand side? What occurs in the battles at sea on the left-hand side? In 1812, Britain had 97 naval vessels. 97 naval vessels in the American waters. There's a total of 97 vessels, naval vessels in the American waters in 1812. Okay, you got to think, if they have 97, how many does the U.S. have? The U.S. has a total of 22 at the time. So it's clear, math friends can take a look there, that you have a sheer difference, okay, of 65. That's a vast difference. What happened here? I thought the U.S. Navy was growing and powerful, and I thought that was the department that Adams had pushed for. Of course it was. But if you recall, under Jefferson, the U.S. Navy was depleted. The U.S. Navy was depleted. You have under Adams' administration that buildup of the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Naval Department for protection at seas. But under Jefferson, all of a sudden, the Navy is depleted. So, is the U.S. prepared for battles at sea? If you look just at the numbers, you're going to say absolutely not. A difference of 65, that's incredible, okay? So the U.S. needs to get prepared. So what they're going to do, okay, what Madison is going to do as the nation's president, commander-in-chief, is he needs to call on privateers, okay? He needs to call on privateers for help. Think of the word private, okay? Think of the word private. Your own, right? Your own. So a private company, it's a company that somebody owns. A privateer they are privately owned ships. So privateers are ships that are privately owned. This is going to, number one, bring more ships to help the United States improve the Navy here. It is your best option right now. It is your best option that you have. And it's also going to be cost efficient, to say the least. This chart here, you can take a moment and jot it down. It's incredible to see. It's comparing the U.S. Navy and privateers during the War of 1812. The U.S. Navy, okay, has 23 total ships right here in 1812. Privateers, 517. 517. Okay, you have almost 500 more than what the U.S. has. Total guns on ships, right, for protection. The U.S. Navy has 556, so a little over 550. Privateers have close to 3,000. Okay, close to 3,000. 2,893. The issue here that we see with the U.S. Navy is to be prepared. Well, these privateers are going to be essential because the enemy ships that were captured by the U.S. Navy, 254. Privateers, the number of enemy ships they captured, 1,300. Okay, the numbers aren't even close. They go ahead and the privateers are able to capture over 1,000 more enemy ships than the U.S. Navy. So one can truly say that privateers were essential to protection of the seas and protection of the United States in general during this time. Okay, what occurred during sea battles on the left-hand side, please? What occurred during sea battles? So we can see these privateers are essential to the United States at this time. Okay, and you're going to want to write this down, USS Constitution. You could put USS Constitution on the left, or you could put on the right. Okay, you have an image of it on the right here, too. Excuse me. The USS Constitution is one of the first ships that is built by the United States Navy during this time. It's commanded by the great Isaac Hull, okay? And copper sheeting on the hull, spikes and bolts are made by Paul Revere. You may remember our great friend. Though, you know, the ship is heavy with copper. It leaves Chesapeake Bay in June, shortly after this war is declared. Okay, and quickly it is chased by British ships. It does end up meeting, okay, the HMS Guerriere off the coast of Nova Scotia on August 19th. So this ship, you know, with its copper sheeting on the hull, on the spikes and the bolts, you can take a look on the right, it's supposed to show great strength. It's one of the first ships built by the Navy. So if it's one of the first ships built by the Navy, you know, one of two things can happen. Number one, it can prove more superior than the others. Number two, you can see what works and what doesn't work. And there's no trial and error here in the sense of practicing to see if it works, because war has been declared. Okay, it leaves Chesapeake Bay shortly after the declaration of war and is quickly chased by British ships. So is this going to hold up? Okay. Old Ironsides. Okay, Old Ironsides. This is a great painting of the combat between the USS Constitution and the HMS Guerriere from the time period. And Old Ironsides, if you think of the name, right, iron, it's supposed to be strong and strength. That's in reference to the ship at this time. Here is what happens during this battle. So you can take a look at the image. I mean, if we were in class right now, I would say, what do you see? Right, so look closely for a moment at what you see. You can tell there's two ships, okay? You could see the flags, you see the British flags, and you see the United States flags, okay? And you see a lot of smoke, You see smog. You notice it's at sea, in the middle of sea. You see no shore within here, within frame. So you can see it's right in the middle of battle. So they surely, right, if you look at it, must be firing back and forth. So the Hull fired his guns at 25 yards, ravaging the Guerrieri. So Hull, right, if you remember, let me go back for a moment. Hull is going to command, Isaac Hull is whom we're referring to, is going to command this ship, the USS Constitution. He fired his guns at 25 yards, ravaging the Guerrieri. The British commander returned fire, but was amazed at how his cannon shot bounced harmlessly off the Constitution's hull. Okay, not to be confused with being commanded by Isaac Hull, the hull of the ship. So, what were ships made of before? Well, many of you would know the majority of ships are made of wood. So if a cannon is shot at wood, what's going to happen? It's going to go through. Now, Britain is firing these cannons at Old Ironsides. Old Ironsides is the USS Constitution. Okay, it's a nickname that is given to it by Britain. Old Ironsides, right now, the cannon is fired from Britain to the United States USS Constitution. And what happens? The shots bounced harmlessly off the Constitution because of the material it was made of. That did shock the British commander. Okay? This wasn't expected. This wasn't expected. So remember I said trial and error for the United States here and also for Britain. Is this ship going to be a good advantage for the U.S.? It seems that way right now. The ships collide 3 times during the battle. So a total of 3 times you could see here. They're literally right on top of each other, right? Great collisions. They're going to collide 3 times. The third time they collide, right, to hit. The third time they collide. The HMS Guerrieri, okay, the mast right here. Let me show you. The mast, if you take a look, the mast of the ship. Third time, the mast is knocked over. The hull burns, right? Hull burns the HMS Guerrieri and returns to America as a hero. So Isaac Hull, right, is able to return to the United States as a great hero. Why? Because, I mean, you take a look at those ships. They're right on top of each other, right? This could have gone either way. Again, a trial and error for both sides. The United States USS Constitution, Old Ironsides, is going to prove to the United States and to Commander Hull to be efficient, to be effective. Okay? This ship is going to be able to survive this battle. It survives 3 collisions and all the back and forth with Britain. So Hull returns to America as a great hero. Why? Because America outlasted Britain during this battle at sea. Some of you might say, Mr. A, why are we so excited? It's not over yet. Of course it's not over yet. And don't think that Britain is not going to look and see, what did the U.S. do differently than us? Okay? The last thing Britain wants to do again here is to be defeated by the Americans. You know, it's 1812. Right now in 2020, the revolution seems many, many years ago. But 1812, it's fresh in the minds of many. Both Britain and the United States, they remember, right? The colonists, Great Britain, remember what just happened here. So what is taking place during this battle is, again, making Britain not look strong enough. How was the U.S. power at sea? How was the U.S. power at sea on the left? You all may recall, right? This is the question many of you got wrong. I believe it was question 10. You can take a look if you want to on the Adams quiz. What department did he push for? He pushed for the Department of the Navy. for protection at sea. Was Adams right? Well, right here in the War of 1812, it is clear that Adams was right, that the U.S. needed to be better prepared at sea. Of course, under the Jefferson administration, you don't have that advancement of the Navy like Adams did. So that's a major issue. If it wasn't for the privateers at this time, what would the United States have done? Would they have been prepared? Based on the numbers you jotted down on the other page, and hopefully you did, you could have it as a chart, you could see the U.S. would have not been prepared. American domination of sea continues. 1812. Okay, victories by the USS Constitution and another ship, the USS United States. The United States right now is successful at sea. The privateers play a crucial role. Okay, you do want to maybe highlight this number if you can. American privateers, right? These privately owned ships that are working for the United States, so to say, they capture over 1,000 British ships by the end of the war. Okay, you saw that in the other one, right? Over 1,000 British ships captured. Essential. By 1813, roughly a year in, Britain deploys more ships. Why is Britain going to deploy more ships? Well, they realize the United States here has, has these privateers. The U.S. doesn't have many of their own ships at this time, right? But when you add up what the U.S. has, which is not much, what the privateers have, you see great strength on the U.S. side. So Britain is going to want to push forward and deploy more ships. And they're going to want to block the U.S. ports. Why are they going to want to block the U.S. ports? Think about that for a moment. Okay. If you overpower the American ports, okay, number one, where are you going to land troops back and forth? Number two, remember the closing of ports in the past with the impact on trade and connecting one part of the nation to the other, one part of the nation to the world. Okay, if you're closing ports, Britain knows. Okay, Britain knows it can impact the United States. So what Britain's going to do, it's going to blockade these U.S. ports. As a result, okay, this docks many U.S. ships until the war's end. Many U.S. ships will be, docked. If they overpower these American ports, which they did, okay, they're able to land troops on American shores. Okay, they're able to land troops on American shores. So not only will this keep U.S. troops at bay because it's overpowering the ports, it's docking many U.S. ships, but now Britain is able to land troops on American shores. What's the impact? Well, you can see here, the clear impact is Britain now came up with a great advantage. Okay, didn't take that long to come up with it either. A great advantage to try to show greater strength against America. So, what I would like to do is I'm going to minimize this so you can see it. The Northern Front, it's the invasion of Canada/Northwest Territory. So I'd like you to write on the left-hand side, what was the Northern Front? What was the Northern Front? As battle is raging at sea, the U.S. decides to attack British-held Canada in July of 1812. Okay, so as you know, right, Canada is not that far from where we are right here in the United States. Some of you may have been to Canada before. So the U.S. is going to realize, as these battles continue at sea, why don't we go ahead and attack, okay, British-held Canada? This occurs in July of 1812. It's the closest way to engage the British Army. And notice what it says here. They thought it would be a mere match of marching. A mere match of marching. So, small British army joined with Tecumseh to defeat a weak and ill-prepared American invasion. Okay? You may know the name Tecumseh from before, right? Native Americans are going to have helped, played a role before. They will again. So What's going to happen is the United States appears weak, okay, and not prepared during this invasion. British and the natives, the Indians, right, are going to work together here. The British and the Indian forces march south into the Northwest Territory. So they're going to march south into the Northwest Territory. They're going to defeat Americans at Fort Dearborn, Detroit. If you take a look, okay, this is known as the Fort Dearborn Massacre. Fort Dearborn Massacre. And then you have Fort, let me see what we have. We have also, you have a total of 3 forts, right? You have a total of 3 forts. Mackinac is the third one, right? So let me see. We have Dearborn, Mackinac, and Detroit. Correct. So you have 3 total. The initial invasion is a disaster. British, the natives are working together. They're marching south into the Northwest Territory. And the initial invasion is a clear, sheer disaster. So the U.S. decided to attack British-held Canada. Well, the small British army, but joined with Tecumseh and the natives, come together. They defeat a weak and ill-prepared American invasion. The British and Indian forts marched south into the Northwest Territory, defeated Americans at 3 forts, and the initial invasion becomes a disaster. So, what's happening here, guys? It seems as if the British is pushing forward. Is it at sea? No, it's at land here. It's at land. So, all of a sudden, what you realize is the British are going to continue to move forward. You may have heard of this before. You should have heard this, the burning of York. The burning of York. So what I'd like you to do on the left-hand side is jot down, what is the burning of York? Americans were ready for the campaigning season in 1813 quicker than the British. So the U.S. seems, more prepared faster than the British. They're seeing what's happened here. They see what just happened at the 3 forts. So a total of 2,000 Americans set off in April for York. Where's York? York. If anybody's ever been to Toronto, right? Toronto, Canada, Canada's capital. Okay, York. York is Canada's capital. 2,000 Americans are going there in April. Attacked weakly defended city on April 27th. So they are able to attack the weakly defended city. 320 American casualties in total, okay, including General Pike. But what you need to realize is the British explode several of their own ships. When they explode several of their own ships, they kill over 100 Americans. But 150 British are gone as well. So you will realize that, you have 700 British impacted initially when the Americans go ahead and set off into York. 320 American casualties do occur, okay? British explode several of their own ships and kill over 100 Americans, but 150 of the British themselves are impacted. British surrendered the city on April 28th. So what happens here? The British surrendered the city. The U.S. campaign here seems that it has worked. Americans end up burning many government buildings, including Parliament, right? Parliament. And they're going to go ahead and burn these government buildings. They're going to take them down, take them to the ground. You can see some in the image to the left here. The American campaign here, the burning of York, seems to be effective. It seems to have worked. So the Americans seem ready for what's ahead. Remember, though, Britain sees what just happened. Are they going to back up? Well, They surrendered the city on April 28th. Does that mean they surrendered altogether? Absolutely not. So we're still on the northern front, okay? And we're going to focus on holding our ground. This is the first time I'm going to mention this name, but it's not going to be the last time. Who was William Henry Harrison on the left? Who was William Henry Harrison on the left? 1813, we see British forces team with Tecumseh, great native, and they attempt to take U.S. forts in Ohio. We know Britain has teamed with the natives before. We've seen them recently team with them again in this war. And now in 1813, British forces team with Tecumseh natives and attempt to take U.S. forts. So the U.S. can't just sit back and let this continue. So they're going to need to fight back, retaliate. Americans repealed British at Fort Meigs in May, and then Fort Stephenson in August. William Henry Harrison, okay, he's going to be the president, not yet, though, have many years to go. He's going to become the president. This is the first time we're going to hear his name. He led a ragtag group of 4,500 militia, right, to retake the Great Lakes region. He regains Fort Detroit, and now they can march into Canada. You may recall recently on the other slide, you see three forts have been taken over by the British. All of a sudden, what happens here is William Henry Harrison is going to lead a group of militia. And let me read you the definition one more time. I know you have this written, but militia. It's an army of citizens who serve as soldiers during a time of emergency. Remember militia? When they needed more soldiers, especially during the Revolution, need more soldiers. These are citizens who are willing to fight in time of emergency. So he has 4,500 of them. And they're going to work together and retake the Great Lakes region. Why is that essential? It's essential because the United States is going to regain one of the three forts we just saw that they had lost. And now the U.S. can march into Canada. Well, Mr. A, is that going to be a good idea? Is this going to work this time? Well, last time the United States seemed to be ill-prepared. The last thing they want to do is not go in, to do that again. They must be prepared this time. So William Henry Harrison, with these great militia men, are going to push forward. The U.S. wants to hold its ground. The U.S. doesn't want to just all of a sudden collapse here. Remember, not many years after they declared their independence, all of a sudden it seems they're fighting for it again. Because here we are at war with Britain again. And this is going to be the last one for today. We're going to continue with the rest next time. What was the Battle of Lake Erie? What was the Battle of Lake Erie? Some may be familiar with that lake. But this is going to be in September 10th of 1813. Oliver Hazard Perry, commands a total of 9 U.S. vessels on Lake Erie. 9 U.S. vessels, you can see the image here, are going to face off against 6 British ships. And all of a sudden, you're going to see a shipbuilding race on both sides. You're going to see a shipbuilding race. Why? Because if ships are impacted, or if you're losing ships, you're going to need more, okay? Even if you're not losing any, you're going to need more. It seems that this war at sea is going to continue, so you need more, and you have a race. Perry commands from a ship called the USS Lawrence. It's easy to know which ones are the U.S. ships, right, with the USS in the front. And, I mean, when you look at the images, you look at the American flag as well. The Lawrence inflicts heavy damage upon the British fleet, but it's also heavily damaged and surrenders. The USS Lawrence does go in really full force against the British. It does damage the British fleet of ships, but the USS Lawrence is damaged as well. So it plays an impact on the British, but it's also damaged and does have to surrender. You see the image here. That's Perry. Perry is rowed under heavy fire to resume command of the USS Niagara. You have to take a look here, what a brave moment this would be. During this heavy fire, this individual needs to be rowed right? That small rowboat, he's going to need to be rowed under heavy fire, under all this. Take a look at the image, sheer chaos, to resume command. So he needs to take command again on the USS Niagara. The USS Niagara is able to defeat the HMS Detroit and forces Barclay to surrender. Okay, Barclay from Britain. All other British ships were captured or destroyed. So, USS Lawrence heavily damaged. Does not mean, Perry is going to give up. Oliver Perry in command here is not going to give up. Instead, he takes this brave moment here to be rowed to the USS Niagara. And on the USS Niagara, he's able to defeat the HMS Detroit from Britain, right? It's HMS in the beginning. As a result, all other British ships are either captured or destroyed. This is a decisive, important, essential American victory. Why? Why is this an important victory? If you remember one point from this whole battle, you remember one. Say from 3 months from now, hopefully you remember everything, but 3 months from now, you remember one point. Why is the Battle of Lake Erie important? It's because this American victory gave the U.S. control of Lake Erie for the remainder of the war. Because of this, the U.S. will have control of Lake Erie for the remainder of the war. That's going to play a crucial role. The seas are playing a crucial role right here. I need you to realize the impact that's happening so far, the collision that's happening so far on both sides. Jot down the notes, okay? Jot down the notes in the sections that I provided to you, okay? In the sections I provided to you. Here's what we should have. You should have a total of 1, 2, 3, okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sections. You should have a total of 10 sections. What I'd like you to do is after these 10 sections, we have a lot to go still. After these 10 sections, there's some video clips that I'd like you to watch with a little reflection. So number 1, please post the notes from Monday by 8. Video clips with reflection Monday by 8. And we should be good to go. This is going to be a very difficult unit if you don't stay with me because this is the first unit we seem to have to do all digitally. Okay? Realize the impact, guys. Have it written down and let me know if you have any questions. Look forward to everything. Have the 2 posts Monday.